We don't know who did the work. You heard that any of that information is redacted. We don't know who did the work. It's a giant secret. We know that by the time the FBI gets involved, the profile, the text file, that's a snip to use to try to identify somebody is more than twice as big when it gets to the FBI from Othram. We don't know how.
I've got an itch I can't scratch, I'm missing a piece that completes a whole part of me, an open wound scar to see. Everybody come here, gather round, welcome to the freak show, the best in town.
Breaking news. Moscow cops solve a case with zero evidence, but 100% confidence. And every day that gets closer and closer to Brian Koberger not submitting an appeal, that confidence grows. And my urge to crash out increases as well. So there's that. But that doesn't mean that we have to stop. Doesn't mean we have to continue to let the mainstream narrative continue to ruin and run our lives and continue to manipulate and divide society. So that's where we come in, Hive. We're going to declare narrative warfare, and we are going to get into it tonight. And as a reminder, join the Hive Mind for all of the off-stream updates. Everything is 100% free. My Substack, my Discord. Click subscribe on my YouTube channel, and then click more. Scroll down. I got my TikTok, the Discord, the Substack. We also got a website that my lovely wife, Mrs. Birdie, put together, birdiebombshell.com. There's some Hive merch on there. This Saturday, I've been starting to plug this as of yesterday. George Webb, one of the OG investigative journalists, has confirmed he will be coming on the live stream this Saturday, August 16th at 10 a.m. Central or 11 Eastern. And we are going to be getting into a 40,000-foot view of how predictive criminal policing and AI algorithms, such as Palantir, might potentially take over our entire world and ruin everything. And we're gonna talk about it at a 40,000-foot view, like I just said, and then we're gonna dive down into the Idaho 4 case, seeming how there was NIJ funding to Washington State, obviously where Brian Koberger was a criminology student. So in that same department that got the funding for predictive criminal behavior in emerging adults in a non-clinical setting. So it's literally college-age kids, not in the classroom. That's one that you won't want to miss, or if you do miss it, tune into the replay. Pink Stinger submitted a Discord question of the day. So if you are in the Discord, please continue to put the questions of the day in there. Do you think the mismatched surveillance and body cam timelines could become their main argument? If so, would that be enough to overturn a guilty plea? I would absolutely think so, because the evidence that was about to be presented against you that made you plead guilty is no longer accurate, would be my guess. So, all right, moving on to the Hive Mind finds. This is from Lily talking about the 911 call. You want to talk about a Hive Mind find where I need to play this song.
Please retrieve your nearest tinfoil hat. Place hat firmly on your head. Prepare yourself.
That actually might be the first Hive Mind find that I've ever played the tinfoil hat song for. So top dog, Hive Mind find for Lily. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because this is just a beautiful thought process. Everybody's heard of Brian getting threatened or his parents getting threatened. With how weird this case has been, we obviously don't know what the hell is going on. And Lily, I don't know if this is a tinfoil hat thing or if it's critical thinking, but I'm going to read this because it really made me start to think about what we listened to last night in that live dig on the 911 audio. They go on to say, okay, the audio work you did last night, brilliant work. At moments, it does sound like Stephen Christie speaking, but how could that be? I don't think any of us think they were on scene. And their comments are too, quote unquote, low key for someone at the murder scene of their child. I agree with the second part of that for sure. The 911 call audio was leaked. We don't know who leaked it. We don't know if it might have been, quote unquote, altered by the leakers before leaking. What if the leakers added Stephen Christie's voices subtly, something that would take some digging to discover to send them a message? The leakers are essentially saying to the Gonzalezes, we are watching you. We are listening. We know everything you do. Do not cross us. If you do, We can insert you into this crime and throw suspicion on you. Wow. Maybe the Steve and Chrissy's comments are audio the leakers acquired by bugging or surveilling the G family home, their cars, offices, phones, hotel rooms, etc. S and K might even recognize where they said the things in those audio clips. It's been put there, then leaked within the 911 call as a warning to them, to pressure them to quit asking questions about the official narrative. Bruh. Just the thought process alone. You could agree with it or disagree with it, but you got to put some respect on the thought process of how deep that person just thought of piecing together all of the oddities in some behavior. Okay, so this is going to go back to that Discord question of the day. Cat's Mojo said, "Good afternoon, Birdie. The comment is written by Grammar Angel, who is a criminal trial attorney. Please read her comment. It is the very first comment on the page. I'm a criminal trial attorney, so I know what I'm talking about." Also, I love that first sentence. It reminds me of Ali Benevento, and it just reminds me of somebody who's very confident in their profession. When they show the video of the car driving through the King Road neighborhood, you ask the witness, quote, "You cannot say who is driving that car, can you? You cannot positively point out the license plate on that car, can you? In fact, you cannot positively say that is even the same car that we are seeing driving around. Isn't that true?" Then you say, "No further questions," and sit down. When they have the cell phone company witness, you question, quote, "Your data does not pinpoint exactly where the cell phone is located when it pings the tower, correct?" Then point to a map of the area that the prosecution has been using and point to an area away from where they are saying the phone was. Could it have been here? What about over here? What about back here? Could the phone have been pinging from here? So, sir, you really don't know where the phone was located, do you? No further questions. Sit down. When the cell phone witness says he turned the phone off, cross-examination would be, "Sir, a person might turn their phone off to save power and avoid loss of battery, correct? And a person may turn off their phone and do a hard boot for other reasons. What would those be? Let them talk about loss of signal, a phone freezing up, etc. So there are many other reasons besides committing murder that would prompt a person to turn their phone off, correct? Nothing further for this witness." Okay, I'm halfway through this. It's unbelievable. It's great. It's amazing. I would have a field day with the knife evidence. I would refer to the sheath as the quote unquote mystical traveling sheath. I would drill the officers who didn't see the sheath for the 4 hours prior to it magically appearing next to the body. I would tie each officer to their reports that made no mention of the sheath. If they tried to suggest that the knife was hidden under the body, the questions would be directed at the coroners who moved the body. When did you report the sheath to the police? And they put in parentheses, there is nothing in the reports documenting anyone pointing it out to the police. I would drill on the lack of chain of custody for the sheath. Then I would sit down. For direct, I would bring in a university professor who teaches criminology, not from WSU, too biased, and ask if it is unusual for a student to research criminals. Of course not. I would ask if it is unusual for a criminology student to download court documents from prior murders. No, you would actually expect that type of research. I would ask if it was unusual for a master's student to conduct a research questionnaire as part of their degree study. No, it's fairly common. Many students conduct surveys as part of their dissertation, your witness. I would subpoena a representative from the K-Bar company to testify about how many K-Bar knives have been sold of that model since 1946. Thousands? Millions? And this is a good quality knife manufactured to last for many years of use. So it is safe to say that many of those knives are still being used and possibly handed down from generation to generation. Enough of that. So the point I am trying to make is that there is so much evidence here that Taylor had to work with. There are so many avenues to demonstrate reasonable doubt. This just skims the surface. Our office would never have pled this case. Grammar Angel, whoever you are, you probably have no idea that there's a dude named Birdie with a Hive Mind stream reading your YouTube comment. But if you happen to see this, just know there are so many people that are waiting for somebody like you and your office to call out this exact bullshit. Call it out. you will have probably more people than you expect back you and your office. Maybe the headlines are going to say like, oh my God, there's people that are defending a quadruple murder. It's going to last about 3 seconds. As soon as you finish this line of questioning, every single one of those mainstream mouth-breathing NPC normies is going to have their tail tucked between their legs, running back to whatever hole they crawled out of, because you just absolutely destroyed them with simple questions that everybody's been wondering since the beginning of this case. But because the news has continued to push such bullshit, people have forgotten what the truth looks like. In this simple YouTube comment, you have demonstrated just how fragile and weak this case was. So, Grammar Angel, the Hive would like to summon you to defend Brian. Obviously, you guys would have to go in and be the judge, see the evidence yourself, determine if he's actually innocent, because don't get that twisted with anybody in the Hive or myself wants a murderer to walk free. But I would say everybody's fairly confident that Brian Kohberger did not commit these murders. So that ends that. In the meantime, the Hive will continue to do that until someone's office does decide to call out the bullshit in a court of law, because I believe that we are starting to see narrative planting. Anna Cabana, which is a cool name. Hi, Birdie. Check this article out from Fox News. Brian Kohberger harassed by other prisoners in maximum security prison. In the article, it says, I'm sure he's already contemplating suicide because it's been under a month and he's already losing control. Are they already setting up for a new narrative? He committed suicide? My God, this case drives me crazy. Love your Hive. Me too, Anna Cabana. It drives me crazy. According to the Idaho Department of Corrections, Kohberger is being housed on J Block inside the Idaho Maximum Security Institution outside Boise. J Block is a secure housing unit with individual cells, according to the Idaho Department of Corrections. Inmates there are typically high-risk prisoners and are limited to 1 hour of outdoor exercise a day and face other restrictions. They get access to the showers every other day. I have no doubt he's contemplating suicide already because he's not even a month in and he's losing control. Most serial killers tend to be control freaks. He's not a serial killer, Keith. Also, he's a former prison minister. Former prison minister. He doesn't even work there. He's not a guard. He's not witnessing this. Isn't that insane? So a former prison minister that doesn't even work at the prison that Brian's at, and he wasn't even a guard, he's a minister, is saying this. They are literally getting up into the grate and yelling at him. Chris McDonough, a former detective who is now with the Cold Case Foundation, told the outlet, the inmates are taking it in turns who's doing it. It's relentless. What did I say about this effing phantom witness? Right here, the account, based on comments from an unnamed insider, got in touch with McDonough and alleges that other J Block inmates have joined forces to make Killer Kohberger's life hell in his cell. See, I believe they're literally just trying to set up the narrative that Brian Kohberger is going to get murdered in prison or he's going to commit suicide. And I'm sorry, this might be out of pocket to say that. If that happens, if he does not appeal and Brian Kohberger ends up dead in prison or commits suicide in prison, I'm gonna bet 100% that he's in some sort of protective custody. Truly, just because it was a high profile case, what would he have a target on his back for? He didn't kill kids. I'm sorry to say that too. It's tragic that these people died. They were not children. They were 18 and older. They're way older. They would have been, if they were in college, they're working adults in society. There was no sexual component to it, and he didn't snitch. So I don't understand from a prison rule standpoint, without ever obviously being to prison, it just doesn't sound like you'd have a target on your back. Now, oh man. Somebody left a comment on one of my videos about old Lion Bill.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about this case?
Yeah, I don't know that I have an answer to that. I'll be candid, Nate. I have not consciously followed a lot of the media, particularly social media stuff. I mean, I read the newspaper and I listen to the local radio.
You should, Bill, because what you're about to say, maybe it would have made you not look like such a dirty, crooked prosecutor.
I'll be candid, Nate. I have not consciously followed a lot of the media, particularly social media stuff. I mean, I read the newspaper, I listen to the local radio station, and that's about it. And so I consciously didn't want to get myself distracted with whatever was going on out there in the world. I had enough people come in and talk to me about, well, there's this rumor and there's that rumor. And, I knew in my own mind that so much of that was just made up. It was speculation. It was people grandstanding for some folks. So, yeah, I don't know from the public's perspective, what would have been the most significant portion or troubling or compelling portion of this case. I guess I'd have to say in the end, it's the loss of those 4 lives for no reason and in such a brutal fashion. I mean, at the beginning and at the end, that's what this is about, is Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana, and certainly also Dylan and Bethany, who fortunately were not killed. Like I said in court, I mean, they had angels watching over them that early morning. That's the only explanation I have for why we didn't have even more tragedy in the form of more murders.
If you guys thought that was a pretty shisty answer, wait till you hear this one.
Do you believe confidently 100% that Kohberger acted alone?
We don't have any evidence to indicate that there was another person involved, and the investigators looked. That said, I guess there's always a possibility that there's something out there that is unknown to the investigators and to us, but there has been nothing that the investigators found to suggest that was actually the case, that somebody in addition to Mr. Kohberger was involved.
There is so much evidence, Bill, you could drown in it. I'm sorry for my F-bomb, but holy hell. Maybe you should put down the newspaper and the mainstream media so you stop swimming in their lies and tune into people that can think openly and freely. There is so much evidence you could drown in it, Bill. So I posted this to TikTok. I believe that this is proof that theorizing and keeping an open mind in the Hive, like what we do here, is important. Like a theory will spark it. Collaboration is going to fan it, and then the lies will burn in the blaze. Notice the things that have changed, or either I got wrong or it ended up being wrong, or just listen to how different what we knew even back in March and where it's at today. This is why you shouldn't get shunned or blocked or kicked out when you have a thought, when something in your gut's telling you, like, this is what this sounds like to me. So I'll go ahead and I'll play this. The whispers that Dylan Mortensen heard, I don't think that those whispers were to Xana. When Dylan Mortensen heard someone say, "It's okay," she didn't whisper it. I don't think that person who was doing the unaliving was talking to Xana. I actually don't even think that it was the person who was originally doing the unaliving to Xana. I think it was a second unaliver that came into the room and didn't want to startle the first unaliver. Almost as if the second unaliver went into that room because it was taking longer than it should have. That reason could have been Ethan being there. It could also explain how Dylan saw somebody walk right by her with a ski mask and not touch her, because that person was going to see what was going on in that other room. And maybe Brian was unaware that the second unaliver even knew that Dylan had even seen him. And also the route that Brian took back to his house was an extended route, right? He didn't go right back to Pullman. Could that be because he was dropping off the other person that was involved and was their home on that route home? So obviously, I'm just putting out my thoughts there. Like, I've always done that. I know that was like, 5 months ago, a little bit longer, but I say that because that was before I even posted on YouTube or did anything on YouTube. I want to show you what collaborating and taking in what other people are putting real effort in and sharing it with people, not afraid of being shit on or called a conspiracy theorist or whatever name you want to call people. Like, it's not going to affect a hive mind. It's not going to affect people who have always thought openly and freely and aren't afraid to share it. It's not for people who don't just absorb the headlines. It's for people who read into things, research things, look into it, and then come to their own conclusion. I have Jay and Bree here, and I got the bird flipping off all these NPC mainstream morons. somebody sent me this clip, and it's going to connect what I was talking about with Bill Thompson and that bullshit, saying that they had all this evidence. He doesn't believe. Maybe he doesn't. We don't know. I mean, is there a possibility there was two people? I want you to watch what J.M. Bree does in this video and how he lays it out. He's going to show people the actual documents. He's going to combine that with his own intellectual thought process, and then he's going to wrap it up, and he's going to show you there could be a reasonable doubt in any sane person's head. There could be two people in this house killing people.
And that is what the unbiased look at the evidence tells us. And that is what the defense's expert also ascertained from that evidence. Like the judge said in his order on vague and undisclosed expert testimony, Mr. Turvey, who was the defense's crime scene expert, has opined in his report that two assailants were involved in the unaliving, partially because he believes multiple weapons were used against Kaylee Gonzalez. Inferred in his opinion is that one person would not have had the time or ability to use multiple weapons in the time frame alleged when faced with two victims. So he looked at the unbiased results and he came to the same conclusion. However, when we look at the autopsy results for Ethan and Xana, we see two cases that, although there are some similarities, there are some things that are glaringly different. And when we see that Ethan's fatal injury was from a stab wound under his left clavicle, which severed his subclavian vein and subclavian artery, and also his jugular vein, all in one stab wound. And it was all severed during that one stab wound. Ethan only had sharp force injuries. We know he had additional injuries to his legs. Xana Kernodle's fatal injuries were from one laceration in her right lung and two lacerations in her heart, which once again are precise injuries that caused her fatal injuries. However, Kernodle had 50 plus stab wounds, mostly defensive, but Xana only had sharp force injuries. So what does all of this tell us? It tells us that the precise strikes to Ethan was done by somebody with experience and a calm temperament. However, the strikes to Xana were caused by two precise strikes, one to her right lung and two to her heart. And she also had 50 plus stab wounds that were mostly defensive. Xana only had sharp force injuries. So there was not a second weapon used on Xana. Yet there are clearly two different assailants with two different temperaments committing the attacks. And what would 50 plus stab wounds, mostly defensive, tell us about the attack on Xana? It would tell us that Xana fought this attacker furiously. And with 50 plus defensive stab wounds, that tells us that the attacker on Xana was not as strong as the person that attacked the other victims. This would have been a weaker person. And this 50 plus stab wound attack, mostly defensive, would have likely taken some time. That means that the person that attacked Ethan would have either had to have attacked Ethan first and disabled him before attacking Xana, or both of these attacks happened at the same time. What this tells me is the person that was attacking Xana was a weaker person, such as a female, and Xana was able to fight her off while another attacker committed the fatal blows on Ethan in a swift manner. And then once that attacker was done, he went and delivered the fatal blows to Xana. Because when you take Dylan's first statement directly after the crime, you get a clearer picture in what she actually said. She said she heard a male voice say, "You're going to be fine. I'm going to help you." Dylan said she did not recognize the male's voice. So when you go to the first statement Dylan made of "you're going to be fine, I'm going to help you," and then you cross-reference it with what she said in her second statement. Her second statement said she could hear Xana crying in the bathroom, which obviously wasn't the case. She heard her crying in the bedroom as the female assailant was attacking her. But then Dylan said she then heard a man's voice say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." And it got watered down with this statement. But she follows it with, Dylan said it was weird because the statement was "not in a nice way." And the voice was one she had never heard before. The statement was "not in a nice way." So when you hear "you're going to be fine, I'm going to help you," not in a nice way, that is the experienced attacker telling the inexperienced female attacker in a not very nice way, "You're going to be fine, I'm going to help you." That is what an unbiased look at the evidence shows.
Hello. Pop, I got to give you major flowers, man. Just an absolute masterclass you've been putting on with this case. And I love that you're not just reading the police reports, you're dissecting them with a surgical precision. You're tying it back to court documents, bringing the receipts literally every time. You got my head spinning half the time, dude. And the reality is that you've woken up a whole lot of people. You might have a lot of trolls, but you've done a lot of good destroying that narrative, brother. And I hope you continue it. Your game seems to level up with every video. And like I said, you might have some trolls, the usual NPCs that are still sleepwalking through this case, but fuck them, because you're doing a great job, man. Keep it up. And I hope you're not offended that I stole your outfit for this portion, because I just feel like sometimes, man, you gotta understand just how crazy good of work this dude has done with this case. Started off, people thought he was probably batshit crazy. Then it was like, okay, maybe he's onto something. And it's like, oh wow, he's tying it to this case over here. It's running parallel. And then he's putting together theories with like flashlights and flashing and signaling. And then he's working with Sherlock on this Delta. And now you look at this and he's like, yeah, there's definitely probably two attackers. It would have been reasonably doubted based on the witnesses' statements, the autopsy reports, police reports, timeline, and then the surrounding parties in the area, all of which were not Brian Koberger. So great work, Pop. Cheers to you, man. And I just think it's absolutely incredible, the video that you're putting together now, the 2-part series. I have not watched nearly every video that you put out, but that series I have watched part 1 and 2. So if you guys haven't seen that, I would highly encourage you to go check it out, because I feel like that's going to end up being a series that people who know nothing about this case are going to look back on and be like, damn, the mainstream morons got us again. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue on. And at some point, I'm going to take this beanie off, because I don't know how you do it every video without sweating your ass off, because I'm already starting to get a little bit warm here. I just wanted to make sure that, credit is given where credit is due, to get off that soapbox. So this is pretty crazy. These pictures, I found these in a Google Photos, like a Google Drive photo folder. I put this picture in here because you guys can see that house that's over here. That's right here. It's got a perfect angle right to the back side of this house. Now, I'm not claiming for sure that anybody is involved from that house, but I'm just saying that, people have seen people walking in and out. They might not even have anything to do with it, but with all of the activity going on and light flashes with somebody walking out the front door, who knows? Just saying, that caught my eye, that you can see right from there. This is obviously the entrance right there, which is right over here. But I mean, this definitely helped me when I found this. I'm like, shit, I wish I would have had these a while ago, or remembered I had them, because I think it would have been really helpful to like reference stuff on camera in like the night vision security camera. It'd been nice to see them in the daytime. This is the front side of them where they would have driven up and gone in and parked, or up and around here. You know what I realized too? If you've ever lived in student housing, there's, at least in my dorm, there was always a draft. These windows look old. They look creaky. They're sliders. It looks like they get like condensation and stuff like built up in the bottom of the sliding racks. They don't seem very thick or protected windows. I wouldn't be shocked if, while we're hearing all that commotion going on outside, if there wasn't an entire freaking front row seat, bird's eye view looking down on whatever fight that was, if it was in here or if it's over here. I don't know if there's windows on that side. I do want to get to the tinfoil hat conspiracy of the day. And this might be news to you guys, but even though it's 2025, it might actually be the year 1728 due to calendar manipulation. And I wish I was joking, but I feel like this tinfoil hat theory might detonate a normie's sense of reality in under 30 seconds. So time has literally been deleted on paper. Okay. Traces back to in 1582, the Catholic Church erased 10 days from history overnight to, quote, fix the calendar. October 4th was followed by October 15th. Then there's people that claim the Middle Ages might entirely be fake because there's like a phantom time hypothesis that says 297 years from 614 to 911 AD never happened due to no solid records, no architecture, no reason to believe certain things existed. That is centuries of history, possibly fabricated by the Vatican and the Holy Roman Empire. In addition, astronomy does not add up. Eclipse records from the ancient times don't align with modern calculations unless you remove about 300 years. That's the trippiest one. The stars in the sky don't lie. If you remove 300 years, then all of those old records line up. So if those fake centuries are real, we're literally living 300 years earlier than we think, which means that all timelines, tech, prophecy, religion are off. We're born into a scripted simulation of progress. So if world power is fabricated time itself, how much of your history, science, and identity are just well-polished lies? That one's trippy. With that being said, Hive, I hope everybody has a great night's sleep, crushes their day tomorrow, and I will be back on at 7 Central tomorrow evening. Cheers.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.